Thank you all for joining us, and I will turn it over to our President and CEO, Paula Gold-Williams. Paula?
Thank you all for giving us time today to keep you updated. There's constantly developments this year. 2020 is so different than we all thought. And yesterday we have some news relative to an outlook change that is substantial. We have not had an outlook change in a very long time. And we, again, want to make sure that we are sharing and being transparent with what happened and what the implications are. My comments, though, are still, I want to make sure that everyone knows our focus is on this community. It's a community in which we live, CPS Energy employees live throughout. We are concerned about our customers during this really difficult time in the pandemic. We know that everyone is challenged tremendously. And so even though we got news that wasn't great, still the whole thing is to help our customers, and it's our biggest priority, remains so. Our focus has been from the very beginning, we've suspended disconnects. We've seen that right now the last thing people need is to worry about whether or not their power can continue to flow, that our electrons are flowing and that our molecules are flowing, and they need that peace of mind. We also are focused on still calling as many customers as we can to make sure that they know about the programs that we have and the programs that are available from, for example, from any agency in the United Way. And we still make sure that we do things like call and look up things on the internet and find them phone numbers and contact. Again, that's what our energy advisors do. They're passionate about that. Our skilled craft employees, NAPE and IBEW, they're union workers, but they are totally focused, and they understand that we are essential workers. Because we're essential, we're able to work consistently to try to keep all of the power flowing 24/7, 365. And so we also know that many people have lost their jobs, they're not bringing in the income that they had expected. There's a lot of effort that is happening at the city council and at the county to try to figure out how do we get the community back and going. We continue to support that. I think what the real focus for us, though, is for all the pressure that our customers are experiencing, CPS Energy in turn is having the same pressure. What our current projections for this current year is that we will have a net loss. Overall, at the bottom line, we will have a net loss. CPS Energy has typically always had a net profit. We're a business owned by a community. The difference for us and other companies is that money and profit is reinvested right back into this community. And we continue to give the city payment. And that is about $1 million a day, every day, weekends, holidays, leap day, all of those things, we continue to do that. And so that's about $350 to $360 million a year that we have always sent back, and we continue to send back. And those are part of our structures. And even with that payment, which helps the city continue to provide services every day, we still have the lowest average rates across Texas. And that's purposeful because, again, we understand that keeping the bills as low as we can and affordable helps our customers. This said, we've got more costs going in to support the community than we have revenue coming in. And so we're gonna show a loss this year. And then as we project, it just gets bigger next year. It gets more difficult. So what's happened? People are at home and they're using power as they well should, but a lot of businesses are not using power. And the ability, again, for them to think about how are they going to maintain their homes gets more difficult. So we have that pressure where our retail sales for the residents that live here, for the businesses that are there, that's under pressure. We also take our excess power, and this is really important. We take our excess power that we have and we sell that to other customers across the state. That helps keep reliability up. That keeps the grid strong. And what it really does for San Antonians is when we bring in that extra money, it really mitigates or lessens the need for a rate case. And one of the ways, as an example, we haven't had a rate increase in 6 years, and we've only had one in 9 years. That happens because of our cost control, because of our diligence. That happens also because we've been able to have wholesale sales come in. Often in the last several years, we've made $150 million. This is a $2.4 billion business. And when we can make that extra money, about $150 million, that's how you make sure that, again, you don't have to keep going back to your customers where you're serving directly to ask them for a rate increase. And that's been great. But the pandemic has affected the economy in San Antonio, in the state, across the globe. So where we have typically been able to make about $150 million a year in wholesale sales, this year looks like we're going to make about 40. So we're $100 million down from where we were. And why is that significant? And why should you have to make a profit? The perspective is what we really do here is we only charge customers what it takes to operate. We're a cost plus business. And so from that standpoint, we cover our costs. And so revenues help cover our costs and again, lessen the need for a rate case. So here we are, and we're talking to the rating agencies. Not only are we looking at this year that we think we can manage to, but we think the losses will be potentially bigger next year. What the rating agencies do, and Gary will explain this more shortly, what the rating agencies do is they look at our business and they look at all the implications that we have. They look at how the pandemic's affecting everyone, how it's affecting us, what things are contributing to that, and other risks that are happening in your service territory. They put out regular reports. We get reports multiple times a year, and bondholders, people who help loan us money, they read those reports. And so what they're again seeing is the pressure mounting in San Antonio and the pressure mounting on us. Bondholders are like they're like mortgage lenders for individuals. Most people can't go out and pay for their house. They don't have a couple of $100,000 or to go out and pay for a house with cash. So what do you want? You want mortgage lenders to give you a loan, and then they make it so that all you have to do is make monthly installments. Well, we have approaching $12 billion in assets, and bondholders have helped us build all of the plants, all of the transmission assets, all of the distribution assets, all of the operating assets that we need to run the business. And so from that perspective, you need bondholders, and we treat our customers like our true investors, but we also have debt investors. And so they pay attention to the reports that come from the rating agencies. What has happened, every single of the three rating agencies have said, we're doing really well. And what they did is they said they deserve some of the highest rates in the nation. Again, we're probably in the top 2.5% of all energy companies, whether they're municipal or whether or not they are investor-owned utilities. And that's, again, because we get graded by our overall community. And so they said, your rating's strong, but your outlook is not strong, meaning what's going to happen in the future. Are all the pressures mounting in such a way that they're considering, if we can't right the ship and weather it through this pandemic with our customers, should they be a highly top-rated entity? Why does that matter? That matters because When we're at the top in the credit rating, that means we have the lowest interest rates. People want to loan us money because they know we can pay them back. So if your ratings go down, then your interest cost goes up. And that again goes and it affects customers because it'll affect the bills and it'll make the bills go up. So we take this indicator very seriously. And I'll tell you the drivers, again, what's happening. It is the pandemic. It is the fact that we've done our best to not ask for a rate increase at all. We've done every single year we put in, let's consider it, because what if wholesale sales doesn't materialize? And so, or what if costs go up, or what if regulatory costs go up? So every year we put it in, and every year all of the 3,000 dedicated people that work here work really hard to, again, keep costs under control, look for savings, and optimize wholesale sales. So we've been successful. I would say that the tipping point for this is as we were being rated, and the rating agencies do look at and they monitor what's happening in the community. I think the tipping point was this petition that is out there now being worked on by a group of people. Now, the petition is against CPS Energy. We have no political views about that. We would never say anything for or against a petition. And it's going to be on the ballot, and people have to make their own minds up. And in fact, we're precluded from having an opinion about the petition. And I really don't even know ultimately how the wording's on there. So it's not about that. But what it is about is the substance of that petition is it wants to, their words, not mine, decapitate the board, make us a department of the city. And you can read the press release, which highlights every single rating agency looked at that and basically felt like the more political that we make the utility. We were designed not to be focused on politics. We were designed to be focused on value to this community and not focus on politics, and serve everyone and make sure that everyone has a price that is affordable and value, and that our services remain reliable and affordable. Those are the primary things. So when they see that and they see, does the city not have the will or the ability to support the utility? And again, somebody said, well, why would you ever have a rate increase? It's the example is, if you work in your job every single day and in one time in 9 years, you get a raise. 1 year in 9 years, you get a raise. That is not sustainable when you're every day going to work, working as hard as you can, making that happen. So the perspective is you ultimately make sure that you can do that. HEB has to raise prices. Many other retail industries raise prices as they need to. And so if the city council cannot raise their rates, and because in that process, it gets more political to run the business that is owned, that is where the pressure is coming from. So this is hot off the press. We just got this word. And our perspective is, again, we want to be as transparent as possible and make people aware of the challenge that we are having. But I'll come back again. We understand that our honor and duty and obligation that we take head on and embrace is that we still want to make sure that we're doing the best things that we can for the community. We will never ask for one more dollar than we need. And we know we're not asking for anything at this moment, but it's a potential that we're going to need a rate case. And clearly the rating agencies are really, helping us absolutely focus on this. And the perspective is ultimately we will need one. I've always said every year we look at it, ultimately we will need one. But here we are in this odd landscape that everyone is living through, and we want to make sure that you all know that. So I'll take a break there and see what what Gary can add, and then I know we'll go on to questions fairly soon.
Thank you, Paula. Yeah, I think you've covered a number of things. I know you mentioned the rating agencies, and we do interact with 3 of the rating agencies, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch. We do this, we are in the market on a regular basis with transactions, and we have a couple of transactions that we're looking at that would allow us to refinance some debt at lower interest rates. With interest rates being lower right now, these are opportunities for us to reduce the cost of that debt, and ultimately that is a cost savings that it gets passed on to our customers. And so we were planning these transactions, and as part of that process, we had these conversations with the rating agencies, and they ask a number of questions. They're very interested about what's going on in the economy, in San Antonio. How are you still seeing customer growth? They're interested about the management team, and they look and make sure that we have competitive rates and that we have the independent rate setting that is really important for them. And so we've had those conversations over the last few days, providing them, information. They have access to our historical information because we are very transparent, and they want to see projections over the next couple of years. And they've seen our monthly reports to the board about what we're experiencing this current fiscal year. And so through that process, they ask questions, and then ultimately take all of that information back and make the assessment. And as we worked through that process, both Moody's and Standard & Poor's came back, reaffirming our ratings and reaffirming the outlook that they have on our debt. Fitch came back, and they also reaffirmed our ratings. They reaffirmed our ratings at AA+, but they did change the outlook. They changed the outlook from stable to negative. That is something that we have not experienced in quite a while. The last time that we had an outlook change for us was about 10 years ago. We went through a short period, where Moody's had changed our outlook from stable to negative. Ultimately, we did some things, and one of those was a rate increase that happened in about the 2010 timeframe. And ultimately, Moody's looked at it and did reestablish a stable outlook. So, this is not unique. We've had this happen to us in our history, and we're going to continue to keep that dialogue with the rating agencies. It's really important for us to make sure that we maintain that dialogue. Paula talked a little bit about our bondholders, and they are really interested in credit quality. They look at the AA+ and the AA ratings that we have, and those are important to investors. When they see that, they're interested in buying our bonds, and when they're interested in buying our bonds, that comes to us as a benefit in lower costs. And so there is a very, very strong relationship between the quality of your debt and being able to keep your costs as low as you can. And that is, again, as Paula noted, that is all for the benefit of our customers. So, I'll stop right there. I think I've kind of hit on a few things, and I know Paula mentioned a number of things, and then I'll see what questions maybe are available. And Paula, if you have any additional things you'd like to add.
No, I'm great. So let's see what questions there are.
All right. Well, we will start with Diego Mendoza Moyers with the San Antonio Express News. Diego?
Good morning, Diego. I'm going to go ahead and mute you now.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all doing this. Thank you all for taking the time this morning to share this information with us. I guess my first question is just, does this negative outlook rating mean CPS needs to make the case now to City Council about the necessity of a rate increase in the short term?
We believe that this year we're good. I mean, we're going to survive, and everything is important. I think we need to spend the time this year making sure that we do answer questions and get out and talk to the public. We again appreciate this is helpful to get the information out and also answer any questions that our board and our council has. So we think this year we're good. The challenge really is next year. Again, it doesn't get any easier. It actually gets potentially harder. And again, if wholesale sales is not, doesn't come back, and we won't know whether wholesale sales come back until that the period is from like June to September. So if the earliest I think that we would actually be in front for a substantial rate increase would be in the fall. And I say substantial, any ask for us is substantial. I think that would be the fall of next year. Now, I will say that, we continue to get people asking us to do special things to see what we can do to basically be helpful. And depending on what we're being asked to do, maybe there might be, again, something that we have to come in and ask for relief for. We think that might be much smaller, but we don't know quite what that is. In general, though, we think it will probably be the fall of next year.
So you get a follow-up question as well.
Yeah, I guess, just generally speaking, as you see, you learned this news last night. I guess, would you describe the pressure on CPS more financial or political at this point?
Both.
Equally?
Yeah, I would say equally. We're used to financial pressure. Again, we spend a lot of time in preventive maintenance to make sure that when the summer happens, which the importance of the summer is the demand is higher, the work effort is higher to keep all the systems on. You also deal with all these storms. So that's a high impact requirement all the time. But now, again, we take no political view one way or another, but this petition, which wants to change our governance and introduce a lot more politics in the ability for us to make decisions, is very, very challenging. In reality, CPS Energy is a leader in the environment, a leader. We're number one in solar. We're top in wind. We have an award-winning energy efficiency and conservation plan at the top level. We just put out an RFI globally and had over 200 responses. So to be criticized and politicized for all the effort that we're doing is very, very challenging. We want to collaborate. We want to find a way to move forward. And so we're supposed to be focusing on serving customers. We're supposed to be focusing on, as we switch out these plants that ultimately are aging, that we do it objectively so we don't cause rate shock. So we don't, if you move too fast, you as a utility, and you start to try to do everything at once, you're going to close the coal units, you're going to supersize your energy efficiency and conservation plan. Means instead of spending $70 million a year, you're going to spend 120 or whatever a year. All that stuff costs money. And CPS Energy doesn't get CARES funding directly. It goes to the city or the county. We've gotten some of that, but not a lot. And so for everything that people want to do out of ideology costs money. We don't print money. And so the pressure of the politics to say, I demand. And because you won't do what we do, we're going to change everything about your company. When you're really a top leader, we're so highly regarded in this industry nationally and globally. It's terrible that people across the globe who see us really doing great things have to read these headlines. And they see that San Antonio, which typically is very collaborative, which is typically ahead of the game, which is typically admired, is being pulled down in these politics. It will potentially affect how people want to join us to help solve issues. And right now, it looks like it's going to start to affect us financially, because bondholders will say, you know, if they can't run that business objectively while they're doing so many good things. We've been complimented over and over again about our flexible path strategy. We had it before everybody else, which says we embrace this change. Our board has endorsed the climate action and adaptation plan, which is in alignment with Paris Accord. I understand the passion that we need to do more and faster, but all this is doing is slowing us down. All this is doing is stopping us from running this company and again focusing on our customers as much as we should. So it's tough. And so there's financial pressure that we're having to manage like everyone else. We are absolutely understanding how much our customers are suffering, but then to be put into this political thing for folks that don't appreciate that we're trying as hard as we can and we're willing to work with everyone. It doesn't mean I can do exactly what you want me to do today, but I hear you, our company hears you, our people hear you, and we are really making a change. So the political pressure is huge. And that's just not where, you know, that help is helpful. It's not helpful.
Thank you, Diego, for that question. We'll go to Brendan Gibbon next with the San Antonio report. Brendan.
Mr. Brennan, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now.
Good morning. Also, I want to say thank you for doing this. You mentioned at the beginning, Paula, that the CPS is expected to have a net loss this fiscal year. How much are you projecting now? We haven't seen your projections since last board meeting, I don't think. And what's driving those?
Hey, Gary, I'll let you take this one. You're the expert.
Yes. The last board meeting, I think we showed a net loss of about $22 or $23 million, and we are in the process of finalizing our results, and I'm anticipating our projections are not going to change all that much. We might be slightly improved from that number, maybe around a loss of $20 or $21 million, but not changed very much from our last board meeting.
And Gary, what would it look like without a rate increase for next year?
Well, without a rate increase, our initial projections right now would be a loss of about $40 to $50 million next year.
Brendan, do you have a follow-up?
Yes. You know, I reading these outlooks and from the three ratings agencies, it's interesting because, you know, in a couple different ones, they have reference to CPS's rate setting ability. Here's a sentence from the Moody's review. CPS Energy could lose its self-regulated rate making ability, you know, as a result of this petition. Fitch's says it could constrain the utility's rate setting ability. So a little bit more loose there. But why do these agencies think that you have independent rate setting abilities? Why they don't seem to acknowledge that City Council already has that oversight over rate setting? Does this indicate that they don't think that City Council oversight is all that meaningful and that CPS really does control the process? No,
not at all. What they mean is the way we do a rate case is we create a business case. And we create a business case where when we demonstrate the need, and we have to answer a lot of questions to our board. We do public input sessions, and we're talking specifically about the need of the case to maintain operations. And then we go to the council and we make the same explanation about the need. It is focused on, you know, how well we're serving, and we get challenged by the board and we get challenged by the city council. Both processes also have public input. People come to sessions and they ask us to explain why, what, all of those things. That is a standard industry approach. But the petition, again, I take no position about it for or against. The petition the implication of it is, so what? You're trying to make a case, but but we want you to do something specifically based upon a ideology, and that's different. I also add this. We have 6 pillars of value that we push all our major initiatives on. And we ask customers to tell us what's the most important. Every single time customers tell us customer affordability and reliability. As a business, we understand that it takes a lot to make it happen. We have to make sure we adhere to safety protocols for the public and our employees, that the security of the grid and the assets that we have are protected, that every time we go in to design and upgrade the system, that it's resilient, meaning that it can respond faster and faster every single time. That's not the way the whole grid is designed. That happens. And environmental responsibility. The petition says, forget all that other stuff. Don't worry about that. Only focus on environmental responsibility, which is an increasingly important pillar, but you have to look at it all. You have to make sure that you're doing all the right things. And we have been talking about the flexible path since 2017. We were ahead of everybody. And we said, we know that we need to increase the focus on environmental responsibility. And we're going to do it this way. We're going to stay open. We're going to look at all the other pillars, and then we're going to do the right things. And again, we've been award-winning and successful. And the strategy is highly regarded across the industry. But what it says is we'll lose that ability to have an objective process that makes sure you're in balance, because the politics will look at one pillar. That is the implication.
Thank you, Brendan. We will go back to Diego.
Good morning, Diego. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
I guess just my other question would be for any potential rate increase. I mean, would it be a sort of flat base increase that, all residents and commercial customers would feel, or do you think it would be sort of a different approach based on the different customer classes?
We typically, and Gary helped me on this, I'll start. We typically try to make sure that all customers have generally the same experience. So if the rate increase is 5%, the general impact is somewhere around there. People are having about a 5% experience. And so there are rate designs that can happen where we actually say the more energy you particularly use, and at certain price points, there are higher rates. That's one way that you can do that to encourage conservation. And so we'll continue to look at that and see if there's other ways that we can create design to make sure that people are conserving as much as possible. But this is kind of the challenge that we know here in San Antonio. We also know that people believe that high usage is associated with high income. And in reality, high usage just might be the way you run your family. Everybody might have different situations where some of the people in the household are working at night and some people are working during the day, which means they're using power all the time and their total usage is up. And so we're just very apprehensive sometimes to create what I generally say can be penalty rates. But rate design is something that we continue to always talk about. In general, though, our approach is to try to make everything relative across all the customer groups. Gary, did I miss anything?
No, yeah, you said it very well, Paula. And I do want to apologize. It looks like I might be having some video issues, but no, you were right on point, Paula.
Diego, do you have a follow-up question?
I think that's mostly it for me. I guess just one other thing. Fitch said, in their rating that, they factored in 2 substantial rate increases in the next 5 years. Is that something you are looking at, or are you just focused on, potential rate increase next year?
Actually, we do projections that all different type of projections that go out 25 years, projections that go 10, 5. We have always kind of looked at the aspect of trying to have a rate in case, and then looking to see if not the next year, but in 2 years, how helpful would it be to potentially have another. That we've done that forever. Again, it's not, that's just planning. And so we've had it to where we haven't needed it, but we plan it. So I think they're just talking about, in general, if you did it like every other year, that would end up to be, theoretically, 2 and 5 years. Diego, I would like to add something one more time as context. So back to your other question, again, I'm going to refer to the petition that I take no political view on. But one of the premises in there that they have written on multiple occasions and in an open letter is that the way you kind of do this is you make it so that the people who need the most help, and we know that there are people again that need help, and so their income levels are at the lower end. And so accordingly, what we do is we change the design so they never have to pay a bill again. And so the way you fix it is that you make businesses pay more. And that's just fair because you're a business and businesses pay more and people who have less should pay less. Here's one of the biggest challenges with that. When we do, as you said, there are different groups of people. There are residential people, there are small businesses, there are medium businesses, and large businesses and huge industrial accounts. What happens in San Antonio already is that businesses in general probably pay somewhere around 5 to 8% more. A lot of the volume of businesses, 5 to 8% more. And so they're at 105% of the cost it takes to serve them. Residents already pay somewhere around 95, 96%. And so customers already broadly, residents have a discount. But what's being proposed and by the petition is give them a bigger discount. So we take them on average, let's say we take them to 80%. Then businesses should pick up the difference. That means they're paying 120, 125% of their cost of service. And to your point, we really have tried to keep everything as level. It's a range. So we try not to go that much higher than 100%, try not to go that much lower. But there's a fallacy out there that businesses are getting the biggest discounts in the world, and it's on residents. It's exact opposite. Residents get a lower charge and businesses pay a premium. And the other thing I'll tell you is businesses, industrial and commercial accounts only make up about 9% of all of our accounts, but they comprise almost 40% of our revenues. So it's correlated. They're already paying a premium. And so this idea that you can just make rate design, make costs go away is not correct. The state requires municipal entities to set rates that are fair to everyone. And if we don't set rates that are generally fair, it's problematic. Now, I'll go explain it to a business and they'll go, well, I should get a discount because I'm a business, I'm an employer. And I say, yes, those employees are residents. And when you pay a bit of a premium, you're helping your employees. And they go, okay, I get that. And they'll also say, well, if you can give me solar, I'll take solar, but you just got to keep my power reliable. Businesses in San Antonio care about customers, they care, residents, they care. But there's an insinuation that there's something else going on, and it really isn't. And we've talked about this and shared this information, but people are ignoring it. The outside issues about this is we can make San Antonio the most expensive business community to do business, more expensive to do business than any place else in Texas, which means we will make it so that people don't want to come to San Antonio to bring jobs. And what do we need now more than ever? People to bring and keep jobs here. So you asked a nuanced question about groups and perceptions and is it equal? It's equitable. We do our best to keep it in balance. We already do a lot of the things smoothly and consistently, again, to maintain affordability and to help everyone. But that's already happening. So I just wanted to make sure that I got that out there.
Thank you, Diego, for the question, and Paula for the insight. Brendan.
Mr. Brennan, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now.
Yeah, just to address something you said about the rates for residential versus business. I mean, residential, they both pay an $8.75 service charge per account, but then residential customers pay 6.9 cents per kilowatt hour. And there's an extra charge during the high demand months. Commercial users do indeed pay more at first, 7.2 cents per kilowatt hour for the first 1,600 kilowatt hours. And then the rate drops to 3.3 cents per kilowatt hour. So businesses pay a premium for that first 1,600 kilowatt hours, and then they pay half the price of residential customers. Would you ever consider changing those rates so that they don't get a price break when they have more use?
Okay, so you're looking at the per unit component, right? And rate design is interesting. You can do all kinds of things in rate design, and all it's doing is moving the money around. The reason why they get a per unit break is because they are being much more efficient in their load, and the ability to spread that usage out over the peak hours and over the high demand hours actually makes our business run better. Residential homes are using power in the morning, and then they're using a lot of power when they come home in the evening. It's much harder to serve individual discrete meters. It's the economies of scale component. So you can look around in the details and say, we could charge $1 for this and we can charge $10 for that, but it's all spread out to make sure that for the volume that they're consuming, on average, it works. But you can't deny that if they're only 9% of the business, and we need more businesses here, and they're comprising 40%, they're still contributing more revenue per capita than residents. So you're looking in the design, and that's what the petitioners, that's worse. But if a big manufacturing company is consuming more overall energy and they're paying a total higher overall bill, that again is something that is more effective, and they're overall still paying more in a 24-hour period than a resident. That's the perspective.
Brendan, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I recently wrote about SAW, and they reported their increase in accounts eligible for disconnection. Technically eligible because they're not disconnecting, just like you're not currently. But how many accounts does CPS Energy have eligible for disconnection at this point, and what is your timeline for resuming disconnections?
I'll let Gary tell you what the counts are. I mean, they are escalating up. We aren't looking to do a resuming disconnects this year. We're going to do all we can to try to make it through this year without doing that. Now, the concern is how much more worse can the financial impact be? Again, we all know the implications of that. But again, we understand a lot of our customers are suffering. We're gonna just keep trying to tighten our belts and not do that this year. We think it's inevitable that we have to resume disconnects again next year. We will make sure that we notice people before that happens, a minimum of 30 days notice, but we think next year we'll have to do it. Exactly when next year, I think it will also depend on how well we finish this year. And again, we'll try to manage as long as we can before we do that. And again, we continue to call customers. Again, we have payment plans, we have an affordability discount, we have senior programs. We're going to, at the same time, continue to enroll people in that and help soften the impact as much as possible. And Gary, as far as where we are, Rob SAW talked about being, 500% up on their bad debts and the eligibility of people for discounts, but I don't know if you have that information on you, Gary.
Yes, the number of customers right now that are eligible for disconnect is right about 67,000 customers, and that's both, residential and our business customers combined. And year over year, when you look at our bad debt numbers, it's nearly double of what it was last year. And so, yeah, we have seen a noticeable increase in our past due balances and the number of customers eligible for disconnects this year as a result of COVID.
Hey, Brendan, the one thing I want to add, one of the things when we look across the energy industry, one of the things that we think has made it, a bit different for us again is that outbound call effort, again, trying to work with customers. We don't make, there are people out there who are bad actors who are preying on customers and saying, we're CPS Energy, we demand you pay or we're going to cut you out. We do not do that. What we do is we'll make a phone call and talk to them and try to see how we could be helpful. And we've had a tremendous response from people who just need more time, they need some more consideration, they need us to help them find, dollars. And I think if we had not done that, we would see at this point, a higher level of bad debts. But we also still know that the economy has not come back. Some jobs and businesses won't come back. And so accordingly, we continue to work with the city and the county to say that if there are any CARES funds available to go to the benefit of our customers directly, please let us help, the community with those funds. So we're trying that. The real challenge, and some people say, well, you just shouldn't charge them. We are required to charge rates sufficient, meaning that's a state requirement. We're required to charge the money necessary to maintain the operations. And while it sounds quippy, I always say we do not print money. There's no pot of money waiting for us to go and apply it to cover those costs. So the best thing that we can do is just try to be helpful. And we are also big supporters of the United Way, and because we also know that people need all different types of help. So our goal is to help our customers get through it. If our customers and community can recover, then we are totally supportive of that because it's beneficial for everyone.
And for both Brendan and Diego, we will get you some follow-up information regarding the outbound call campaign and some stats for that. We have time for one more question for each. Diego, do you have a closing question?
Diego, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now.
I guess, how do you anticipate the pandemic? We're seeing kind of, some cases resurge, particularly in Texas. Are you all sort of looking at that as creating, even greater uncertainty heading into 2021, or how are your views on the pandemic at this point?
Well, we have a pandemic and business continuity program that we've had for years. And so we do study everything. We study, what's happening globally. We study, the vaccine. We have to be part of the first responder perspective, our frontline employees, our skilled craft employees in particular, our operators of plants. We have to make sure, for example, I always say this, if there's a fire at a location, Chief Hood's going to make sure that he gives me a call if he needs to, but our teams are always working together because they got to make sure that the power to that location is cut off so it doesn't, increase the risk. So we're looking at this stuff all the time, and we have to make sure we're very, very diligent. I got my mask here. We're very, very diligent that we are making sure that we are, carrying our PPE, our mask, our physical distancing, but we monitor it. And so we are going to be one of the last ones ourselves to go to normal operations. We're working and we're supporting the community and we're, getting food from restaurants and all that kind of stuff, but we have to be very, very careful. So we watch every single thing. We don't know, just like everybody else, everyone makes predictions. I think it's great that a vaccine is coming out and we're trying to get our employees in line to get that vaccine. We think the vaccine and continued physical distancing, even as we walk through recovery, is going to be really, really important to get our economy back on track. But we don't have a crystal ball of actually knowing how effective everything will be. We are hoping that by the summer of next year that we're fully coming out of it. But like everyone else, we're hopeful. We're going to do our part. We're going to be diligent. We are concerned that we're seeing some increases, again, across the country, in communities all over. We're seeing a bit of an uptick in San Antonio currently. It's gonna, as much as everybody's tired, what really matters is the continuing mask wearing. If you and I wear a mask, and we're a little under 6 feet, we're probably going to be, that's the safest thing that we can do now. And so we keep telling our employees, be diligent, be diligent, be diligent, and don't get tired. And so we're going to keep it up. But we are concerned because we really don't know the exact end of this era.
Thanks, Paula. And Brendan.
Mr. Brennan, I'm going to go to unmute you now.
Thanks again for doing this call. Really appreciate it. It does really help us understand what's going on. And I guess my last one was just, you have in this press release a 5 to 8% increase. I know that's not locked in stone, but just want to confirm that that's an average residential account. And can you tell us where those numbers are coming from, sort of the analysis that says we're looking at 5 to 8%?
Well, we always think that, again, we understand customers think it should be 0. But we always try to, take affordability and the relativity into consideration. So our goal is to try to keep things to 5%, but we again know that there's additional needs. So what we try to do is shape it, and that's where it comes from, because in general we think 5% is great. We do know that at 10%, things above 10%. Just become much more expensive. So we'll do all we can to try to keep it in that range. If you look at the rating agencies' reports, and I'll just offer this for you, sometimes they talk about base rate increases, and that's a part of the design. Typically, the way you put it in there is that on certain costs of your fixed costs, you only apply that. And so the rate looks higher because it's only at a portion of the bill. We look at the total bill. A big part of our bill is fuel. And fuel in itself, we don't put a rate cost on that. Whatever it costs us to get fuel, then we just make that a pass through to the community. So we blend it all together, and then we target that the bill impact. Total bill impact to the customer is about 5%. We try to target that. Now, I'm gonna say again. So I take no political position about the petition. One of the premises is close coal, the remaining coal units that we have. So we have closed the 2 older units 15 years earlier than their life would have typically said. And we do know that we still have to figure out what to do with those older coal units. And the challenge is they want us to close them by 2030. But the point is, I got a 2-year-old car in my driveway. Let's say those are the coal units. And that is reliable, and that is helping keeping reliability, not just in San Antonio, but in Texas. But I got a 20-year-old clunker, getting to be a clunker every day. It's performing, but I got to do a lot of work to it. The cost to maintain it is higher. The likelihood that it's going to stop me from getting to work is higher every single year. What we've talked about is we need to take care of those units and simultaneously then think about what to do with the coal units. Should we repower them? Should we try to think about them moving to hydrogen technology and working with the federal government? Can we close them? And if we close them, when you take out that much capacity, at the same time, you don't have as much, and you could potentially affect both affordability and reliability. And so I just raised that as a concern. So the point back to where you were going, it's velocity. We don't disagree with the environmentalists. We believe that it's important that we make everything better, and that ultimately we get away from higher emitting technology. Those units, the spruce units, are younger, they have environmental controls on them, and they have lower emissions, And ultimately, again, we'll figure out the way to dispose of them. But let's say they say close those tomorrow and then take care of your 20-year-old car and do that all at once. When you have to do all of that, and they also say make your energy efficiency program 3 times bigger. That is the kind of stuff, if you do that all together, causes potential bill shock. And you're doing, the proposal is for good reasons and good cause. Environmental responsibility is important. But again, if you do all that stuff at once, what we think is about a 5% rate increase is probably a 10 to 15% rate increase. And again, making San Antonio the most expensive energy market for everyone, we believe is not the right goal. But we still believe that we can reach all of these milestones working together and working with our community. And that's why it's important for us not to let those get out of hand. And that's why we work to shape them. That's another reason why the rating agency says you need 2, because what you do is you take as much as you can and shape it to affordability. You wait a couple of years, you do a little bit more instead of saying, give me 10% all at once. That's kind of the way we do it.
Well, thank you, Brendan and Diego, for joining us this morning. Paula and Gary, I'd like to see if there's any closing thoughts you'd like to add as we close out.
I'll kick it to Gary first.
No, I want to say thank you to both Brandon and Diego. We do appreciate the questions, and we are working to be as transparent and provide information. And so do appreciate the opportunity to answer your questions. That's all that I have to add.
Yeah, the only thing I will add too, I understand, Brendan, that this is your vacation day. We didn't plan it. We didn't try to mess up your vacation or anything like that. We absolutely know that your readers are always interested in what we're doing. And Diego, thank you so much. You've spent a lot of time, making sure that we are able to give you information and covering us. Again, what you all both do is really important. And the only thing that we ask is, balance. And so thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak and share. And that's important to us. We know that what we do for our customers is valuable. And we also know and care about what they're going through. And what we need them to have is good balance and objective information. And so I thank you both for what you do every day for San Antonio, and thank you for talking to us this morning.